Hello there, and welcome to Soft Science Stories. Tonight, we will travel somewhere vast, quiet, and timeless, a place carved not by hands, but by patience itself. Tonight, we drift above the sleeping world and descend slowly into the ancient heart of the Earth, the Grand Canyon. Beneath starlight and silence, the canyon stretches for miles, like a frozen river of stone, whispering the story of time. Every wall, every color, every hidden curve tells the tale of our planet's deep memory, a memory written not in words, but in layers of rock. As you settle in and let your breathing slow, imagine standing at the canyon's rim. The air is cool and still. Far below, the Colorado River moves like liquid silver, gliding through shadows carved over millions of years. The canyon glows softly beneath the moon, bands of red, orange, and gold layered like pages in a book that has taken 2 billion years to write. You can almost hear the echoes of time itself, the slow grinding of rivers, the quiet crumble of stone, the patient rhythm of wind shaping the world grain by grain. In this gentle journey, we'll explore 100 fascinating facts about the Grand Canyon and the world's other great canyons. We'll learn how water sculpts landscapes, how ancient seas once filled these chasms, and how life continues to find its way among the stone and sand. So close your eyes, slow your thoughts, and let's begin our descent through time, through layers, through peace. The Grand Canyon is one of the oldest storytellers on Earth. Its layers of rock reach back nearly 2 billion years, half the age of our planet itself. Each layer holds a chapter of history, from when the land was covered by shallow seas to the days when volcanoes rumbled nearby and entire mountain ranges rose and eroded away. The Colorado River, small and unhurried in appearance, has been carving its way through this stone for around 6 million years, sculpting the canyon slowly, gently, and endlessly. It's a reminder that time, not force, is nature's greatest tool of creation. The rocks at the very bottom of the canyon are called the Vishnu schist, dark, ancient metamorphic stones that once formed deep beneath Earth's surface. They're so old that they were created long before the first plants appeared, before fish swam, and before any animal walked on land. Above them lie layers like the Tapete sandstone and the bright Angel shale, lighter in color, formed when ancient oceans covered this part of the world. These layers tell us that long ago, this desert was once a warm sea filled with strange life. If you could touch the canyon's walls, you would be touching time itself, a smooth, cool record of everything Earth has been through: the rise and fall of mountains, the drying of oceans, the shifting of continents. The Grand Canyon isn't just a place. It's a story of patience, pressure, and change. Every grain of sand once belonged to a mountain. Every cliff was once seabed. And every breeze that moves through the canyon carries a whisper from an older world, a reminder that even the most solid stone is never truly still. The Colorado River, though it seems peaceful today, has been one of Earth's most patient sculptors. For millions of years, this river has flowed from the snowy peaks of the Rocky Mountains, gathering water from rainfall and melting ice, and carrying tiny grains of sand and rock on its long journey south. As these grains grind against the canyon's walls, they carve, polish, and deepen the landscape one particle at a time. Every drop of water carries a memory of movement, and together, those countless drops have shaped one of the most magnificent features on the planet. Scientists believe the Grand Canyon began forming around 6 million years ago, when the river found a new path across a high, rising plateau. The force of gravity, the slow uplift of the land, and the steady erosion from water worked together like gears in nature's clock. While the river cut downward, rain, wind, and frost chipped away at the sides, widening the canyon and revealing the ancient rocks beneath. This process continues even now, quietly, invisibly, always changing the shape of the land. At its widest points, the Grand Canyon stretches up to 18 miles across, and in places, it plunges more than a mile deep. From above, it looks like a maze of ridges, spires, and valleys, an ocean of stone frozen in motion. From below, it feels like a cathedral built by time. The sound of the river echoes softly off the walls, and the air holds the cool scent of rock and water. Everything here moves slowly, yet nothing truly rests. When you stand along the canyon's edge, you're witnessing erosion in action, a masterpiece still being painted. During flash floods, the Colorado River swells, carrying heavier rocks and debris that crash through its channel, scraping the riverbed deeper. When temperatures drop, rainwater seeps into cracks in the rock, freezes, and expands, breaking the cliffs apart piece by piece. Even the wind, as gentle as it feels, carries grains of sand that polish the canyon's walls, wearing them smoother each year. Time, water, and air, the quiet artists of geology, never stop working. One of the most fascinating facts about the Colorado River is how it has shifted and changed paths over millions of years. As tectonic forces lifted the Colorado Plateau, the river responded by cutting deeper, always finding the lowest route toward the sea. It carved not only through soft sediments, but through the hardest rock layers, creating steep cliffs and winding bends known as meanders. These curves and layers are like Earth's fingerprints, each unique, each formed by a combination of chance and persistence. Even today, the canyon deepens a little more each year. It may take thousands of human lifetimes to notice, but the Earth is never finished shaping itself. The same processes that built the canyon also build mountains, carve valleys, and form islands. The Colorado River reminds us that even the smallest movements, a raindrop, a gust of wind, a single grain of sand, can change the face of the world when given enough time. The Grand Canyon is more than a shape in the earth, it's a painting in stone. Its walls glow with colors that shift through the day, changing with each ray of sunlight and shadow. At sunrise, the rocks blush with soft pinks and pale gold. At midday, they blaze in oranges, reds, and amber light. As evening falls, the cliffs fade into lavender, violet, and deep blue. These colors aren't just beautiful. They are clues, records of ancient worlds layered gently upon each other. Each hue in the canyon's walls tells a story. The rich red and brown tones come from iron, slowly rusting within the rock over millions of years. The pale creams and yellows speak of ancient seas, where minerals like limestone and quartz were laid down in quiet layers. Greenish streaks hint at copper traces, while purple bands reveal the presence of manganese. Together, these minerals form a geological tapestry, a natural history book written in color instead of ink. Imagine the ancient landscapes that created those shades, deserts where sand dunes towered and shifted with the wind, oceans filled with coral and strange creatures that no longer exist, tropical swamps where lush ferns grew as tall as trees. Every color is the memory of a vanished world. The red layers once held sunlight that fell on ancient sands. The white layers once shimmered beneath shallow water. The dark layers once lay hidden beneath crushing heat and pressure. Even as the canyon stands silent today, its colors speak softly of change, of the long conversation between air, water, and time. Scientists have identified more than a dozen distinct rock layers within the Grand Canyon, each one representing a different era of Earth's history. The Kaibab limestone at the very top was formed about 270 million years ago, when this region was part of a warm, shallow sea. Beneath it lies the Toroip Formation, then the Coconino Sandstone, a dazzling white layer made from ancient desert dunes. Each layer tells scientists how the environment looked, how the climate felt, and what kinds of life existed when that rock was new. The deeper you go, the older the rocks become. The Redwall limestone, hundreds of meters thick, formed when coral reefs and sea creatures built their shells on the ocean floor. Below that, the Mauve limestone and Bright Angel shale hold fossils of trilobites, small, armored creatures that once scuttled through ancient mud. Deeper still, the Tapete sandstone marks the beginning of visible Earth history here, laid down more than 500 million years ago. If you were to trace your hand across these layers, from top to bottom, you'd be moving backward through time, not by centuries, or even by millions of years, but by entire ages of Earth's evolution. From shallow seas to desert winds, from coral reefs to mountain-building forces, every color and every texture tells of life and loss, of worlds that rose and faded long before ours began. The Grand Canyon, in its stillness, holds the heartbeat of history itself. Long before the Grand Canyon was a desert of stone and sunlight, it was a living ocean. If you could travel back hundreds of millions of years, you would find waves rolling over this land, warm and shallow, shimmering with light. Strange creatures drifted beneath the surface, trilobites, brachiopods, and sponges, their delicate shapes now preserved in rock. The limestone and shale that make up many canyon walls were built from the remains of those tiny sea creatures, layer upon layer, pressed together by time until their shells became stone. In some places, you can still see fossils embedded in the canyon's walls, small imprints of shells and ripples from waves that once danced over ancient seafloors. These quiet patterns tell scientists that this region has been home to many worlds: oceans, deserts, forests, and rivers, each leaving behind its own traces. The Grand Canyon is like Earth's diary, written not with ink, but with texture and memory. As the seas retreated, new forms of life appeared. Rivers carried mud and sand into deltas, where strange fish swam through shallow water and ferns grew along the edges. When the environment changed again, those rivers dried and winds sculpted dunes across vast plains. Over time, all these worlds were buried and compressed, locked beneath new layers, waiting to be rediscovered. Each fossil found here is a whisper from a vanished age, proof that even the quietest lives leave their mark. When you look at the canyon's stone, you're not just seeing rock. You're seeing a record of everything that ever lived, breathed, or floated in these ancient places. Some fossils in the Grand Canyon are older than the first forests on Earth. The Bright Angel Shale, for example, contains the remains of marine creatures that lived more than 500 million years ago during the Cambrian period, a time when life was still learning to take shape. These fossils include trilobites, creatures with segmented shells and tiny legs that once scuttled along the seafloor, leaving faint tracks that hardened into stone. Others are worm burrows and coral-like forms, evidence of soft-bodied animals that once filled the sea with slow movement. Higher in the canyon's layers, fossils tell of new environments. The Kaibab limestone, much younger at 270 million years old, holds the remains of sea sponges, crinoids, and even early sharks. Imagine that. The same cliffs that now echo with the sound of wind once rang with the hum of ocean life. The walls that rise above the river once held coral reefs and fish that swam where hawks now soar. Though the Grand Canyon may seem like a place untouched by life, it's actually built from it. Every layer infused with the history of living things. Even the minerals that color the walls, like iron and copper, were shaped by biological processes long ago. Life and stone are intertwined here, woven together through deep time. When you listen closely to the canyon's silence, you can almost hear the echoes of those ancient tides, still moving somewhere deep within the Earth's memory. Long before the canyon existed, the land that would one day hold it was flat and quiet, a vast plain of rivers, lakes, and shallow seas. Then, deep beneath the surface, the Earth began to move. Massive tectonic plates, the slow, shifting pieces of our planet's crust, started to push upward. Over millions of years, this motion lifted an enormous section of land known as the Colorado Plateau, raising it more than a mile above sea level. It wasn't a violent rise, but a patient one, a steady movement that gave water the perfect angle to begin carving downward. As the land rose, the Colorado River responded like a thread pulled tighter, cutting deeper into the stone to maintain its flow toward the sea. It's a delicate balance between uplift and erosion. The earth pushing up, the river slicing down. This slow tug-of-war has been shaping the canyon for millions of years. Each layer of rock exposed along the canyon walls represents a different era of uplift and erosion, like a geological heartbeat recorded in stone. The uplift didn't just create one canyon, it shaped an entire region. Across the American Southwest, mesas, cliffs, and valleys owe their form to the same forces that built the Grand Canyon. When rain falls on this high desert, it doesn't soak in deeply. It runs quickly across the surface, carrying grains of sand that continue to wear away the land. Even the wind joins in, polishing rock faces smooth and carrying dust far across the desert. Time and motion never rest. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Colorado Plateau is how stable it has remained through so much change. While other regions were folded into mountains or broken apart by earthquakes, this vast section of crust rose as a single, solid block. This even uplift allowed the canyon's layers to stay neatly stacked, so scientists can read them like pages in a book, each line a new chapter in Earth's deep history. The plateau's rise also changed the course of weather and water. As the land climbed higher, the air grew cooler and rainfall patterns shifted. Snow began to collect on distant mountains, feeding the Colorado River with meltwater each spring. Over time, the river grew stronger, slicing through harder rock, cutting deeper with every flood and every century. Even now, the uplift continues, almost imperceptibly. The land beneath the Grand Canyon still rises by fractions of an inch each year, too slow for us to feel, but fast enough to change the path of the river over millennia. It's a reminder that Earth's story is never finished. What looks still to us is, in truth, always moving, just on a scale too vast for human eyes to see. The Grand Canyon isn't simply a scar or a valley. It's a living boundary between sky and stone, between what once was and what is still becoming. When you stand on its rim, you are standing on land that has been climbing toward the heavens for millions of years, while the river far below continues its patient descent, together forming one of the most breathtaking partnerships in nature. If you've ever looked closely at the Grand Canyon, you'll notice that it's not just one great crack in the earth. It's a labyrinth of cliffs and towers, ridges and plateaus, a maze sculpted by erosion over millions of years. Some of these rock formations rise like enormous temples, each with its own name. Vishnu Temple, Zoroaster Temple, and Isis Temple, names that echo the timelessness of both nature and myth. These monuments weren't built by hands, but by the patient work of wind, rain, and the ceaseless Colorado River far below. Every shape within the canyon has been carved by differences in hardness, texture, and resistance. Softer layers like shale crumble away quickly under rain and frost, while harder layers like sandstone or limestone hold strong, forming ledges and cliffs. Over time, this uneven erosion sculpts the canyon's dramatic terraces and spires. When sunlight drifts across the walls at dawn or dusk, each layer glows with a different hue: deep reds, pale golds, soft purples, as though the canyon itself were breathing in color. What's even more peaceful to imagine is that this constant shaping never truly ends. Each drop of rain, each gust of wind, each passing season continues to refine the canyon's face. Rockfalls echo softly through the cliffs, adding new layers of sediment to the river below. And in the quiet spaces between storms, the canyon rests, still and timeless, as the stars drift slowly above. The strange and beautiful landforms inside the canyon even have their own rhythm. Some resemble pyramids, others domes or stair-stepped fortresses. Each has a story written in the stone, not of sudden creation, but of slow transformation. Many formations began as flat plateaus millions of years ago, and erosion sculpted them down to their present shape. In the same way that waves sculpt sand into patterns on a beach, water and wind sculpt rock into shapes that seem both deliberate and delicate. If you look from above, you can see that erosion has created natural amphitheaters and side canyons that stretch for miles. These tributary canyons, like Marble Canyon and Little Colorado Canyon, feed into the main gorge, carrying their own history of floods and storms. Some parts of the canyon are so steep and hidden that sunlight reaches the floor for only a few minutes each day. Mosses and ferns cling to these shaded walls, while desert flowers bloom above, proof that even in harsh places, life finds a rhythm to survive. From the highest rim to the deepest gorge, the Grand Canyon feels alive. It's not a frozen monument, but a breathing landscape, slowly changing with each passing century. And though it looks eternal, every shape we see today will one day be gone, worn away, carried downstream, reborn as sand somewhere far away. It's this balance of stillness and motion that gives the canyon its quiet magic, a reminder that everything, no matter how solid, is part of the same gentle cycle of change. The Colorado River may seem small compared to the mighty canyons it carved, but it is one of nature's most patient sculptors. For millions of years, this single ribbon of water has been slicing through layers of stone, shaping the earth with a slow persistence that only time can understand. It's easy to imagine the river as a painter, using not a brush, but movement, grain by grain, carving its masterpiece in silence. Every bend, every curve of the Grand Canyon is the result of that quiet, endless motion. When rain falls in the distant mountains, it joins streams that feed into the Colorado. The river gathers strength as it travels, picking up silt and sand, the tools it needs to carve rock. Over time, these tiny grains act like nature's sandpaper, grinding through layers of limestone, sandstone, and shale. Floods come and go, each one cutting a little deeper, each one redrawing the canyon's shape. To the human eye, it seems still, but to the river, the canyon is always changing, always alive. Even the sound of the river is part of the canyon's memory. Long before humans arrived, its steady voice echoed between the walls, carrying stories of ancient storms, lost seas, and forgotten landscapes. The water's rhythm is slow but constant, a heartbeat for the canyon itself. And though modern dams now quiet parts of its flow, the river's legacy remains written in every curve of stone, a reminder that even the softest forces can shape the strongest foundations. The river's journey didn't just carve the land, it also created life. Along its banks, cottonwood trees sway, nourished by groundwater that seeps through porous stone. Birds rest on branches that catch the sunrise first, while fish swim in the calm pools below. This narrow corridor of green, the river's gift to the desert, is called a riparian zone, and it supports thousands of species that couldn't survive in the dry cliffs above. The Grand Canyon may look barren from a distance, but along the Colorado River, life flourishes in quiet abundance. In spring, when snow melts high in the Rocky Mountains, the river rises with renewed energy, sending fresh minerals downstream. Each season brings subtle changes, soft floods that reshape sandbars and carve new patterns into the riverbed. This constant renewal mirrors the rhythm of sleep itself, a cycle of flow, rest, and rebirth. The same water that once tumbled through the canyon millions of years ago may one day fall again as rain, continuing its endless path of transformation. The Colorado River teaches a quiet truth: that power isn't always loud or sudden. Sometimes it's the steady, patient effort that creates the most lasting beauty. And as it moves onward, past the canyon's final bend and toward the open desert, it leaves behind not emptiness, but a masterpiece, a living sculpture carved by time, water, and grace. Life inside the Grand Canyon is a quiet miracle. At first glance, it looks like a world of stone and silence, but look closer and you'll see that every ledge, every shadowed crevice, holds something alive. Desert bighorn sheep balance easily along cliffs that seem impossible to stand on. Tiny lizards scurry across warm rocks, disappearing into cracks that glow with sunlight. Ravens circle far above, their wings tracing invisible patterns against the canyon walls. Each creature has found its own way to survive in this landscape of extremes. The temperature can swing wildly here, freezing nights, blazing days, yet life endures. Plants like the prickly pear cactus and yucca thrive where there's almost no soil, storing water deep inside their roots. Wildflowers bloom after rare desert rains, painting the canyon floor in brief bursts of red, yellow, and violet before fading back into stillness. Even the smallest grains of sand hold seeds waiting for the next chance to grow. It's a cycle of patience and persistence, just like the canyon itself. High above, on the canyon rims, pine trees stand tall, while deep below, cottonwoods lean over the river, drinking from its underground flow. Between them lies a world of transition, where desert meets forest and sunlight meets shadow. Each layer of the canyon isn't just geological, it's ecological too, supporting its own unique community of life. From the dry upper rims to the humid depths of the inner gorge, the Grand Canyon is like a staircase of habitats, each step home to something new. Some of the canyon's residents have ancient stories of their own. The California condor, one of the world's rarest birds, once nearly vanished from the earth, but it has returned to the canyon's skies. With wings wider than a person is tall, it glides silently on warm air currents, circling between walls of stone that have watched species rise and fall. In the still air, you can almost hear the whisper of its flight, a reminder that even in a harsh world, recovery is possible. Bats rest in hidden caves, venturing out at dusk to catch insects that drift on the warm breeze. Frogs sing softly near the riverbanks after summer rains. In the cooler shadows, ringtail cats move quietly through the night, their bright eyes glimmering in the moonlight. Every sound, a wing beat, a ripple, a rustle, becomes part of the canyon's nighttime symphony. What makes it even more beautiful is that these creatures have adapted perfectly to the rhythm of this place. They move with the same patience that shaped the rocks. They wait out the heat, follow the light, and trust the river's gentle promise of water. In a world carved by time and silence, life doesn't just survive. It listens, it endures, and it becomes part of the canyon's endless story. Long before explorers and scientists came to study the Grand Canyon, people had already lived here for thousands of years. The canyon has always been a place of both challenge and comfort, harsh in its cliffs, yet generous with its river and life. Ancient peoples, such as the ancestral Puebloans, the Havasupai, the Hopi, and the Hualapai, called this immense landscape home. To them, the canyon wasn't just a geological wonder. It was a living spirit, a teacher, and a sacred story written in stone. Archaeologists have found traces of these early communities tucked away in cliff dwellings, caves, and ancient campsites. Pottery shards, stone tools, and petroglyphs carved into the canyon walls still whisper of lives lived close to the land. The people farmed on the rims and in fertile valleys, growing corn, beans, and squash. They followed the rhythms of the seasons, planting by the light, gathering by the river, resting when the desert slept. For them, the canyon wasn't empty. It was alive with meaning. Every echo, every changing color at sunset, was part of a larger story connecting sky, water, and earth. Even the stars above had their place in the canyon's mythology, lights guiding travelers and spirits through the dark. To walk the canyon was to walk through time, where each step held both history and hope. Among the most enduring of these communities are the Havasupai people, whose name means people of the blue-green waters. They still live within the canyon today, near Havasu Creek, a stunning oasis where turquoise waterfalls tumble through red rock groves. The water there is rich in minerals, which give it its vibrant color, glowing softly even under moonlight. For the Havasupai, this isn't just water, it's life, heritage, and connection. Many native stories speak of the canyon as the place of emergence, where life began, or where the world was shaped by powerful forces. To the Hopi, for instance, the Grand Canyon is a passage between worlds, both physical and spiritual. It's a place of transition, where the earth opens to reveal what lies beneath and beyond. Even today, ceremonies, songs, and prayers echo through its cliffs, carrying respect for the land that has nurtured generations. When you think of the Grand Canyon at night, silent, vast, and filled with stars, it's humbling to remember that people have been gazing at that same view for thousands of years. Their fires once glowed in the darkness, their voices rose like the wind, and their stories still linger in the stone. The canyon doesn't just hold history, it breathes it. And if you listen closely enough, you can almost hear those ancient voices carried softly on the desert air. Beneath the sunlit cliffs of the Grand Canyon lies another world, one of hidden caves, silent tunnels, and untouched chambers that have been sealed away for millions of years. More than 1,000 caves are known to exist within the canyon's walls, though only a few have ever been explored. Each one is like a pocket of deep time, holding fossils, minerals, and traces of ancient life. The air inside is cool and still, untouched by wind or weather, as if the earth itself were holding its breath. Some of these caves formed when rainwater, carrying a faint trace of carbonic acid, slowly dissolved the limestone layers over countless centuries. As the rock wore away, hollow spaces opened up, some small and narrow, others vast enough to fit a cathedral. In these underground rooms, stalactites hang like stone icicles from the ceiling, while stalagmites rise slowly from the floor, growing just a few millimeters each century. Their shimmering surfaces record the rhythm of time drop by drop, year after year. Fossils lie hidden in the rock, the remains of ancient marine creatures that once swam in warm, shallow seas long before the canyon existed. You can find shells, corals, and even trilobites preserved in perfect detail. Each one tells a quiet story of a world that has vanished, replaced by another, and another still. The Grand Canyon is like a layered diary of Earth's memory, one that never stops writing itself, even as we sleep. Some caves within the canyon are so deep that light has never touched them. Inside, unique forms of life have evolved in darkness, tiny bacteria that feed on minerals, completely independent of sunlight. Scientists call these extremophiles, organisms that thrive in conditions where almost nothing else can survive. Studying them helps us understand how life might exist in other worlds, such as beneath the icy crust of Europa or deep within Mars canyons. Even in its silence, the Grand Canyon helps us imagine the possibilities of life beyond Earth. One of the most famous caves, called the Cave of the Domes, sits hidden near Horseshoe Mesa. Inside, the walls sparkle with crystal-like formations that reflect any light softly, like the inside of a geode. Stepping into a place like that feels almost dreamlike, as if you've entered a memory the Earth has kept secret. Every cave, every layer of stone, is a patient storyteller. Together, they whisper a message about resilience, that beauty doesn't rush to exist. It forms slowly, quietly, over millions of years. The Grand Canyon reminds us that creation can be calm, and that even the stillest spaces hold endless wonder. Beneath the surface, time continues to shape the unseen world, steady, soft, and eternal. When sunlight first touches the Grand Canyon, it doesn't simply illuminate it, it transforms it. Each wall, ridge, and layer of stone glows with its own hue, creating a landscape that looks painted by time itself. Reds, oranges, and purples melt into gold and rose as the day begins. In the evening, the light softens into silvers and blues, wrapping the canyon in calm. Scientists call this play of color atmospheric scattering, but to the eye, it feels like watching the earth breathe. Each color you see has a story written in minerals. The red and rust tones come from iron, long exposed to air and moisture, the same process that turns metal to rust. The soft yellows and creams come from limestone, once part of ancient seas filled with coral and shell. Purples and deep browns hint at manganese, while green streaks reveal traces of copper that glimmer faintly under the sun. These minerals are like pigments in a giant painting, arranged by water, wind, and time rather than by human hands. The Grand Canyon's beauty isn't just what's visible, it's how it changes with the sky. Clouds drift across, casting slow-moving shadows that climb the cliffs like tides. When storms roll through, lightning flashes across the rim, lighting up the canyon's depths for an instant, revealing its vastness in a single blink. Then comes silence again, broken only by the faint murmur of the river far below. At sunrise and sunset, something almost magical happens. The canyon seems to glow from within, as though the rock itself remembers the heat of creation. The air fills with soft hues that shift from amber to rose to violet. Colors so gentle, they seem designed to calm the mind. Geologists know this happens because of the angle of sunlight and the way particles in the air scatter short and long wavelengths differently. But when you watch it happen, science fades quietly into awe. Night brings another kind of light. With almost no pollution, the Grand Canyon skies reveal thousands of stars, each shining with the clarity of untouched darkness. From the rim, you can see the Milky Way arching overhead, a reminder that even as we stand within the Earth's deepest scar, we are still part of a much larger story. The same minerals that color the canyon also exist in the stars. The same elements that form its cliffs once burned in distant suns. To look at the canyon is to look at time, matter, and light all at once, a harmony of science and stillness. It reminds us that beauty is both ancient and fleeting, shaped by the same quiet laws that guide rivers, form stars, and whisper us softly into sleep. The story of how the Grand Canyon formed begins not with the river, but with the rise of mountains. Millions of years ago, powerful forces beneath the earth pushed the land upward, forming what geologists call the Colorado Plateau. This uplift raised an enormous section of the Earth's crust high above sea level, gently, steadily, like a slow breath. It didn't happen overnight. It took tens of millions of years as the planet's deep layers moved and flexed. This rising motion gave rivers more power, allowing them to cut downward with new energy. Then came the Colorado River, winding its way across this highland. Over time, the river found a path of weakness in the rock and began carving downward, grain by grain, layer by layer. Rainfall, ice, and wind joined in, slowly eroding the canyon's edges wider and deeper. It was a perfect balance of uplift and erosion, the land rising, the river cutting. Together, these forces shaped the vast chasm we see today. Even today, the process continues. The Colorado Plateau is still slowly rising, and erosion still deepens the canyon inch by inch. Though the change is almost invisible in a human lifetime, it never truly stops. What we see now is just one frame in a film that's been playing for over 6 million years. Every rock, every ridge, every curve of the canyon tells part of that long, gentle story of movement and transformation. What's fascinating is that the Grand Canyon's shape isn't uniform. Some sections are narrow and steep, while others spread wide like open valleys. This difference comes from the variety of rock layers. Harder rocks, like sandstone and limestone, resist erosion, forming tall cliffs and sharp edges. Softer rocks, like shale, wear away more easily, creating terraces and slopes. The result is a staircase of stone, each step marking a chapter of geologic history. When the river met faults or cracks in the rock, it deepened its course faster, carving out side canyons and hidden gorges. Rainwater and melting snow seeped into those cracks, freezing and expanding to split the rock further. Over time, what began as tiny fractures grew into vast corridors. Even now, when you stand at the rim, you're looking at the combined result of countless small actions, raindrops, wind gusts, and river currents, working together across millions of years. This slow creation reminds us of something peaceful and profound, that change doesn't always come through force. Sometimes, it happens through patience, through steady motion guided by quiet persistence. The Grand Canyon wasn't built by a single event, but by time itself, layer after layer, just as our own lives are shaped by small, constant moments that leave their mark. If you could walk down the Grand Canyon, you would be traveling backward through time. Each step would take you millions of years into Earth's history, passing through layers of rock that record ancient oceans, deserts, and mountains. Geologists call these layers strata, and the Grand Canyon has some of the clearest, most complete strata anywhere on Earth. The topmost layers are young, by geological standards, while the rocks at the bottom are among the oldest exposed on the planet. At the very top lies the Kaibab limestone, formed about 270 million years ago when this region was a warm, shallow sea filled with coral reefs, shells, and marine creatures. Beneath it lies the Toroid Formation, then the Coconino Sandstone, which was once a vast desert of wind-blown dunes, proof that this landscape has shifted between ocean and desert many times. Each layer preserves a memory of its world: shells pressed into stone, ripples frozen in sand, footprints of creatures long gone. Deeper still, you find the Redwall limestone, stained crimson by iron-rich minerals that seeped through its surface. It's one of the canyon's most striking features, its sheer cliffs glowing red and gold at sunset. Below that, layers like the Mauve limestone and bright angel shale tell of ancient marine environments more than 500 million years old. Together, they form part of the Tonto Group, one of the most famous sequences in geology. As you descend even farther, you enter the realm of deep time, rocks that existed long before complex life. The Grand Canyon supergroup stretches back nearly 1 billion years, formed when ancient rivers and seas deposited sediments across a restless land. These layers were later tilted and broken by tectonic movement, then buried and revealed again by erosion. It's as if the Earth wrote and rewrote its story on the same pages, over and over, until it became what we see today. Finally, at the canyon's base, lies the Vishnu Schist, dark, metamorphic rock nearly 2 billion years old. It once existed deep underground, where heat and pressure transformed it from simple sediments into shining, banded stone. Above it runs the Zoroaster granite, pale and pink, filling ancient fractures like veins of light within the dark walls. These rocks are older than the first forests, older even than the earliest fish. Standing among them is like touching the dawn of the world itself. The Grand Canyon's layers aren't just colors or cliffs, they're memories, patiently recorded by the Earth. Every crack, every fossil, every shimmer of mineral is part of a message written across eons, that even the most solid things we see today were once in motion and will be again. In the canyon's silence, that truth feels both infinite and comforting, a lullaby sung by time itself. The Grand Canyon isn't just a window into stone, it's a fossil library written in layers of time. If you look closely, you can find the delicate imprints of shells, coral, and tiny sea creatures pressed into limestone walls. These fossils tell of a time when Arizona lay beneath a warm ocean teeming with life. The oldest fossils are microscopic, simple organisms that drifted through ancient seas nearly 500 million years ago. They built reefs, filtered water, and left behind skeletons that slowly turned to stone. In the Kaibab limestone, paleontologists have discovered fossils of brachiopods, bryozoans, and crinoids, small, plant-like animals that wave their feathery arms to catch food. The Coconino Sandstone, once a desert, holds something very different: footprints. These faint impressions were left by reptiles and amphibians as they crossed dunes 275 million years ago. Some show tail drags and careful steps, as if the creatures were moving through soft sand on a windy day. These tracks are among the oldest evidence of land-dwelling animals in North America. Farther down, in the Mauve and Bright Angel Shale, lie fossils from a much older sea, the Cambrian Ocean, more than 500 million years ago. There you'll find trilobites, ancient arthropods that scuttled across the seafloor long before dinosaurs. Their segmented bodies, preserved in fine mudstone, still gleam faintly with mineral sheen, like little armored ghosts of the past. Every fossil found in the canyon is a whisper from another age, a tiny, patient record of how life changes, adapts, and survives. Some layers even show stromatolites, the fossilized remains of cyanobacteria that helped create the planet's first oxygen. These simple life forms are among Earth's earliest architects, turning barren worlds into breathable ones. It's strange and soothing to think that the air we breathe began with creatures now trapped in stone. Not all fossils in the canyon are visible. Some are microscopic, hidden inside limestone, waiting for scientists to find them under a lens. They include foraminifera and radiolarians, single-celled organisms with shells of silica or calcium carbonate. Under magnification, they look like tiny works of art, spirals, stars, and lattices so intricate they seem designed. These small fossils help scientists understand ancient climates and the chemistry of oceans long vanished. When you stand at the edge of the Grand Canyon and gaze across the layers, you're also looking at the history of life itself, from simple cells to complex animals. Every stone carries a trace of a vanished world. It's humbling, peaceful, and deeply grounding to realize that even the hardest rock was once alive, and that the planet's memory is written not just in stone, but in the delicate remains of creatures who once floated, crawled, and breathed in ancient seas. The Grand Canyon story is, at its heart, a story about a river, the Colorado River, winding and patient, carving stone with time instead of tools. It began as a modest stream millions of years ago, flowing across a high plateau. As the land slowly lifted, the river deepened its course, slicing through rock layer after rock layer, tracing a path toward the sea. What we see today, a chasm more than 270 miles long and over a mile deep, is the patient artwork of water and gravity, shaped grain by grain. It's almost impossible to imagine the scale of time involved. Scientists estimate the canyon began forming around 5 to 6 million years ago, but the rocks it cuts through are far older, some more than 1.8 billion years old. That means the river is young compared to the stones it moves through, like a child drawing lines on the face of an ancient world. Every drop of water carries with it tiny bits of sand and silt, natural sandpaper that wears away at the walls, deepening the canyon year after year. As it carved, the river didn't move in a straight line. It curved, twisted, and turned, finding softer rock to erode. These bends created the canyon's graceful meanders, like the soft curves of a sleeping landscape. The constant push of flowing water, combined with seasonal floods, sculpted the walls into cliffs, terraces, and amphitheaters of stone. What we see today is a slow dance between uplift and erosion, the land rising, the river cutting, a balance that never truly ends. At night, when the river flows quietly under the moonlight, it carries the same timeless rhythm that shaped the canyon itself. Even now, it continues to carve, though the changes are almost invisible to us. Each year, the Colorado River removes an estimated 100,000 tons of sediment, carrying fragments of the canyon toward the Gulf of California. These grains, once part of towering cliffs, are now part of the desert's dust, the ocean's floor, and the endless cycle of Earth reshaping itself. The river's color, a reddish-brown, comes from the iron-rich silt it carries. It's what gives the Colorado its name, meaning colored or red river. When sunlight touches it, the water seems to glow with life, reflecting the canyon walls like a moving mirror. In flood seasons, the river's force can be immense, powerful enough to sweep away boulders the size of cars. But between those moments, it rests in quiet pools, where fish glide beneath the surface and herons stand motionless, waiting for a meal. To fall asleep thinking about this river is to imagine the patience of nature, a quiet persistence that shapes worlds not in hours or years, but in ages. The Grand Canyon is not a moment of creation, but a continuing act, still unfolding beneath the stars. Even now, while the world sleeps, the Colorado River hums softly in the dark, still carving, still creating, still whispering the story of time. The Grand Canyon is often described as a staircase through time. Each layer of rock is like a memory, holding the imprint of an ancient world. If you could glide down the canyon's walls like a feather, you'd travel backward through nearly 2 billion years of Earth's history. From the youngest stone at the rim to the oldest at the river's edge, the layers reveal how oceans, deserts, and rivers came and went, leaving behind colors, minerals, and fossils as quiet clues. At the very top sits the Kaibab limestone, about 270 million years old. This pale, creamy layer once formed the floor of a warm, shallow sea that covered much of the region. Beneath it lies the Toroib Formation, a mix of limestone, sandstone, and gypsum, materials shaped by tides, beaches, and evaporating lagoons. Each tells of a coastline that slowly shifted, sometimes dry, sometimes flooded, as ancient climates changed. Further down, you reach the Coconino Sandstone, a golden, wind-blown desert turned to stone. Its rippled patterns still show the shape of ancient dunes, frozen waves of sand that once rolled across a vast, arid plain. The Hermit Shale below it is a deep red-brown, made from mud once carried by rivers and streams. Together, these layers speak of an earth that transformed endlessly, long before people ever stood to watch the sunset over its cliffs. Descending deeper, you come to the Supai Group, 4 distinct layers of red, orange, and maroon sandstone that glow at sunrise and sunset. These rocks are around 300 million years old, formed when rivers meandered through coastal plains dotted with ferns and towering trees. Beneath them lies the Redwall Limestone, a massive gray layer stained crimson by minerals washed down from above. When you stand near it, the walls seem to shimmer as sunlight bounces from ridge to ridge. Deeper still is the Mauve Limestone, followed by the bright Angel Shale and Tapete Sandstone, each marking a chapter from a time when ancient seas flooded what is now the American Southwest. The rocks here are more than 500 million years old. And finally, at the canyon's bottom, lies the Vishnu Schist, the oldest rock of all, dark and glistening, nearly 1.8 billion years old. Once molten and buried miles deep, it has been twisted, folded, and transformed by unimaginable heat and pressure. Standing at the edge of the Colorado River, surrounded by these dark walls, you are closer to Earth's beginning than almost anywhere else on land. Each stone layer holds the quiet story of time, oceans rising and falling, continents drifting, mountains forming and eroding away. To imagine it all is to feel the gentle weight of eternity. The canyon is not just a place. It's a calendar written in color, a lullaby of stone that reminds us how slowly the world moves and how patient creation truly is. The Grand Canyon is more than rock and shadow. It's a masterpiece painted by sunlight, time, and air. When dawn touches the rim, the colors begin to wake, changing moment by moment as if the canyon itself is breathing. Deep reds, gentle pinks, soft violets, and bands of orange flow across the walls like watercolors on stone. These shades aren't random. They're the work of minerals, iron oxides, and the slow chemistry of weathering that's been going on for millions of years. The reds and oranges come mostly from iron-bearing minerals in the rock. Just like rust on metal, when iron in sandstone reacts with oxygen, it stains the stone in warm hues, from soft rose to deep crimson. The purples and lavenders often seen in shadow come from manganese oxides, subtle pigments that reveal themselves when the light fades. Limestones, pale and reflective, add cool tones, whites, creams, and hints of silver, balancing the richness of the reds below. As the sun moves across the sky, these minerals react differently to the changing light. In the morning, the colors are soft and dusty, washed gently by the cool glow of dawn. By midday, the cliffs blaze bright and golden, their edges sharp and glowing. And when the sun sets, the canyon deepens again into quiet purple, a tranquil palette that seems to draw the entire world into rest. Watching the light fade is like watching time itself exhale. Even the air above the canyon plays a role in its colors. Tiny dust particles and moisture scatter sunlight, giving the horizon a hazy blue tint that deepens the farther you look. This soft atmospheric veil adds layers of depth, making distant cliffs look dreamlike, as if floating in the desert heat. On rare days after rain, the air clears completely, and the canyon's edges sharpen, every ridge, every shadow visible in perfect detail, like a painting come to life. At night, the colors vanish, replaced by the silver glow of moonlight. The same walls that burn with gold during the day now shimmer in gray-blue, their contours softened under starlight. In winter, a layer of snow sometimes dusts the rim, turning the desert palette into something delicate and quiet, red rock peeking through white frost. The combination of color and silence is otherworldly, as if the canyon is asleep too, dreaming of the sunlight that will return. Scientists say the canyon's colors are more than beauty, they're records. Each shade reveals chemical changes that occurred over ages, the presence of ancient oxygen, minerals from vanished seas, or dust blown from long-eroded mountains. Every color is a clue to a time when the world was different, warmer, wetter, wilder. And as you drift toward sleep, it's comforting to know that even the rocks remember the weather of their youth, painted forever in tones of rust, gold, and dusk. Beyond the open cliffs and sweeping views of the Grand Canyon lies another world, one hidden in shadow and silence. Beneath the surface are over 1,000 caves, tucked into limestone walls and narrow ravines, formed by the slow movement of water seeping through cracks in the rock. Some are small and shallow, no larger than a hollow, while others reach deep into the canyon's bones, dark corridors where time seems to stand still. The best known is the Grand Canyon Caverns, located several hundred feet below ground. Formed more than 60 million years ago, these caverns are vast, echoing spaces once filled with groundwater that gradually dissolved the limestone, leaving behind airy chambers and smooth walls. The air inside is cool and dry, so still that objects left there barely decay. It's a world untouched by weather or wind, a place where the earth breathes quietly through stone. Deeper within, explorers have found stalactites and stalagmites, slow-growing mineral sculptures that form when water drips through limestone, carrying traces of calcium carbonate. Each droplet leaves behind a tiny crystal, and over centuries, they build pillars, curtains, and flowstone patterns that shimmer like frozen waterfalls. These cave formations are nature's slowest art, taking thousands of years to form just a few inches. To stand among them is to feel the weight of patience, a silence so complete that even a whisper seems loud. Side canyons, smaller branches that split off from the main gorge, tell a similar story of time and persistence. Names like Marble Canyon, Little Colorado Gorge, and Havasu Canyon are reminders that the Grand Canyon isn't a single cut through the earth, but a network of valleys and tributaries carved by rain, wind, and floods. Each one has its own character. Marble Canyon with its smooth, polished walls, Havasu Canyon glowing turquoise from its mineral-rich waterfalls, and the Little Colorado, streaked with white and gold deposits from dissolved limestone. Inside these narrow canyons, the sound of water echoes endlessly, soft trickles, distant falls, or the hush of wind moving through stone. The walls glow in shades of orange and red as sunlight filters down, reflecting from curve to curve. Sometimes, entire hidden ecosystems thrive there: ferns, moss, and tiny pools of clear water where insects and small fish live undisturbed. Caves and side canyons remind us that even in a place defined by vastness, there are small, secret corners that hold their own beauty. They're sanctuaries of stillness, carved drop by drop, where the world feels slower and quieter. As you imagine these spaces, deep and cool, let your thoughts soften too, like water finding its way through stone, peaceful, steady, and unhurried. Water is rare in the desert, yet within the Grand Canyon, it hides in plain sight. In the shimmer of waterfalls, the glisten of seeps on stone, and the quiet pools that gather in shaded alcoves. The most famous of these is Havasu Falls, found in Havasu Canyon, a place so vibrant it feels like a dream. Here, turquoise blue water spills over a red rock ledge, falling nearly 100 feet into a pool as clear as glass. The color comes from calcium carbonate, which reflects sunlight in shades of blue and green. It's the same mineral that forms the canyon's limestone walls, turning water into liquid light. The Havasupai people, whose name means people of the blue-green water, have lived beside these falls for centuries. To them, this oasis is sacred, a gift of balance and renewal in a harsh land. The water comes from underground springs, flowing constantly at the same temperature, cool even in the desert's heat. Day and night, it murmurs through the canyon, feeding small gardens, pools, and streams where plants and animals gather in quiet harmony. Other waterfalls, like Mooney Falls, Beaver Falls, and Navajo Falls, continue this chain of living water. Each one has its own rhythm and voice, sculpted by the rock it meets. Some fall in single sheets, smooth and silent. Others tumble in white sprays, echoing softly through the canyon's red corridors. Together, they form a hidden river of motion, a reminder that even the driest landscapes hold the heartbeat of water. Beyond the famous Cascades, there are hundreds of springs and seeps scattered throughout the canyon. These are quiet miracles, places where groundwater slowly escapes through cracks, feeding small oases of green. Some are no larger than a puddle, others flow gently for miles, sustaining cottonwood trees, ferns, and willows. These delicate microhabitats are home to tiny frogs, dragonflies, and rare insects that live nowhere else on Earth. Even during drought, the canyon's springs persist, protected deep within layers of porous rock that store water like sponges. Some of this water fell as rain more than 20,000 years ago during the last ice age, and has been traveling underground ever since. By the time it emerges into the light, it's ancient, cool, mineral-rich, and pure. Scientists study these waters to understand the hidden plumbing of the Earth, tracing their flow through fractures and aquifers that we've unseen beneath the desert. When you imagine the Grand Canyon at night, picture this: not the vast, open silence above, but the quiet trickle of springs below, where every drop reflects starlight and life hums softly in the shadows. The canyon is a place of stillness, but it is also a place of flow, of constant motion hidden within calm. As you breathe and drift toward rest, you can almost hear it, the slow, patient music of water carving stone. Though it may seem silent from above, the Grand Canyon is alive with movement and sound. The flutter of wings, the whisper of paws over sand, the call of birds echoing against red stone. More than 500 species of animals live here, each one perfectly shaped by this land of heat, shadow, and stone. From the rim to the river, the canyon holds an entire vertical world of habitats: desert scrub, pine forest, riparian glades, stacked one atop another like layers of life. Along the riverbanks, you might find bighorn sheep, their curved horns polished smooth by years of climbing. They leap across cliffs with an ease that seems impossible, balancing on ledges barely wider than a book. Farther up the slopes, mule deer and elk wander through juniper groves, grazing in the cool hours of dawn and dusk. In the higher forests of the North Rim, black bears still roam, following berry patches and mountain streams. Overhead, the air belongs to birds. The canyon is home to peregrine falcons, the fastest animals on Earth, diving through the open air in breathtaking silence. California condors, with wings wider than a person is tall, glide effortlessly on warm currents, circling above the cliffs. Once nearly extinct, they were reintroduced to this region, and now they soar again, a living echo of ancient skies. When you see one drift across the canyon's vastness, it feels like watching time itself in flight. In the warmer layers of the canyon, life becomes smaller and more secretive. Lizards sun themselves on rocks, changing color to blend into the stone. Collared lizards, with bright blue-green scales, chase insects across the sand, while chuckwallas puff up their bodies to wedge into crevices, safe from predators. At night, ringtails, small, cat-like mammals with striped tails, emerge from caves to hunt quietly along the canyon walls. Their large eyes reflect moonlight, glowing softly in the dark. The river itself is alive, too. Trout and catfish glide through the cool, silty water, while dragonflies and mayflies hover above. Frogs sing softly near springs, their calls echoing in the still air like tiny bells. Even the insects here seem part of a slow rhythm. Bees drifting between desert flowers, ants carving tunnels through sand warmed by the sun. Each animal, no matter how small, carries the canyon's spirit, resilient, quiet, and perfectly balanced with its world. Life here has learned to survive by moving with the land, not against it, by knowing when to rest, when to rise, and when to hide from the heat. As you drift deeper into calm, you can almost feel it, that same gentle rhythm, the slow breathing of a living landscape, steady and eternal. Beneath the blazing sun, life in the Grand Canyon has learned the language of patience. Every plant, every grain of dust, moves at its own careful rhythm. The canyon's vegetation tells a story not of abundance, but of adaptation, a slow, beautiful mastery of survival. Across its walls, the colors shift with altitude: desert scrub below, sage and juniper in the middle reaches, and pine forests high above the rim. Each zone is like a layer of time, showing how life evolves with the land. Along the lower canyon floor, cacti reign supreme, silent keepers of water. The prickly pear, with its flat green pads, soaks up sunlight by day and seals its pores by night to preserve moisture. Its fruit glows red like tiny lanterns, feeding birds, insects, and sometimes the desert's wandering deer. The cholla cactus, covered in silver spines, catches the early light and glimmers like glass, beautiful, but dangerous to touch. Each thorn tells a quiet truth: beauty and protection can grow together. Further up, the agave stretches long, blue-green blades toward the sky. Some will live for decades before sending up a single flower stalk, a final, stunning bloom that marks the end of their life. The yucca, with its white blossoms, survives where few others can, holding its water deep within. And scattered through the dry soil, sagebrush and creosote release soft, herbal scents, a fragrance that clings to the air after rain, reminding the desert that life still stirs beneath the dust. Climb higher toward the canyon's rims, and the landscape begins to soften. The dry earth gives way to pinyon pines and juniper trees, their roots gripping the rock like ancient fingers. Together, they form quiet forests that hum in the wind, providing shelter for birds and small mammals. Pinyon pines produce tiny seeds, hidden within hard cones, which native peoples once gathered for food, a gift from the canyon's resilience. Beneath the surface, unseen yet alive, plants communicate through mycorrhizal networks, microscopic threads of fungi connecting their roots. Through these hidden lines, trees share nutrients, water, and even warning signals, forming an invisible web of cooperation. It's a reminder that even in the harshest worlds, connection sustains life. When rain does come, the transformation feels almost magical. Seeds that have slept for months awaken overnight. The desert blooms in bursts of purple, gold, and white, a living painting that lasts only days before fading again into silence. Yet even when the blossoms are gone, the memory of them lingers, written into the soil, waiting for the next gentle rain. As you breathe in, imagine the scent of wet stone, sage, and pine drifting through cool canyon air. The plants here teach us something simple and profound, that survival can be graceful and endurance can be beautiful. The canyon may look still, but within every branch, root, and seed, life is quietly humming, unhurried, patient, eternal. Deep within the canyon's endless walls, a single ribbon of water glimmers under the sun, the Colorado River. It looks small from above, like a silver thread winding through layers of color and shadow. But this river is no ordinary stream. It is the artist that carved one of the greatest natural wonders on Earth. For more than 5 million years, it has cut its path through ancient rock, slowly sculpting the Grand Canyon, one grain of sand at a time. The river's story begins far to the north, in the snowy peaks of the Rocky Mountains. Meltwater gathers in quiet trickles, forming streams that merge and grow stronger with every mile. By the time the Colorado reaches Arizona, it carries both water and memory, minerals from mountains, sediments from plains, and whispers of distant rain. Every drop has traveled far, weaving through canyons, deserts, and valleys before finding its way here. As it winds through the canyon, the river's current digs deeper into the Earth's history. Each bend, each rapid, tells a different chapter. The faster water rushes, the more stone it wears away. Over countless centuries, the river sliced through layers of limestone, sandstone, and shale, revealing a timeline of Earth itself. Rock formed when oceans covered the land, when deserts stretched wide, and when forests rose and fell long before humans existed. Sometimes, the river is calm, its surface smooth and glassy, mirroring the golden cliffs. At other times, it rages with power, white foam churning against the canyon's narrow walls. Both moods are part of its story, gentle and fierce, patient and relentless. The Colorado River is not just water. It is motion, sound, and persistence made visible. Listen long enough, and the river becomes a teacher. It speaks of time measured not in minutes, but in millennia. It shows how steady flow can shape even the hardest stone, how small movements, repeated endlessly, can create something vast and eternal. The canyon exists because the river never stopped, not even when rock tried to hold it back. Along its banks, life flourishes. Cottonwood trees lean toward the water, their roots reaching deep for moisture. Willows and reeds sway softly in the breeze, providing shelter for insects and songbirds. Trout, catfish, and bighorn sheep depend on this winding oasis to survive. In a desert of silence and heat, the river is a living pulse, cooling, feeding, sustaining. The river also holds memory for the people who've lived near it for thousands of years. Indigenous nations such as the Havasupai, Hopi, and Navajo see the Colorado not just as a resource, but as a sacred being, a spirit that gives life and reminds humanity of its place in the web of nature. To them, the river is both ancestor and teacher, flowing with stories older than any map. Even now, as dams and modern pressures have tamed much of its wild path, the Colorado's spirit remains strong. It still carves, still flows, still whispers across stone. In the deep quiet of night, the sound of its current echoes faintly up the canyon walls, a lullaby older than time itself. So as you drift into rest, imagine that sound, soft, steady, eternal. A river running through stone, unhurried and sure, reminding you that persistence is its own kind of peace. Far below the canyon rim, where light softens and echoes linger, the walls of stone hold secrets of life long gone. What looks like solid rock is really a library, each layer a chapter, each fossil a sentence written in the language of time. The Grand Canyon's cliffs are not just old, they are ancient beyond imagination. Some of these rocks formed nearly 2 billion years ago, when the Earth's surface was still young, and the first tiny cells were learning how to breathe oxygen. As you move downward through the canyon, you are also traveling backward through time. The upper layers tell the story of shallow seas and coral reefs, where creatures with shells and fins once thrived. Dig a little deeper, and you reach strata filled with crinoids, brachiopods, and trilobites, ocean dwellers from an age before dinosaurs. Some layers even contain ripples frozen in stone, the fossilized remains of ancient waves. Imagine those ancient oceans, warm, shallow, and filled with life. Sunlight flickered through the water as early fish darted between coral branches. Sand settled softly at the bottom, slowly hardening into limestone over millions of years. Then, as continents shifted and seas retreated, those same seabeds rose into mountains. Rain, rivers, and time carved them again, turning what was once ocean floor into towering cliffs. When you walk through the canyon today, you're stepping on fossilized seabeds, standing on what was once underwater. Every pebble and ridge carries a quiet memory of the living world that came before. It's a gentle reminder that Earth is never still, that even the hardest rock is just a moment in an endless cycle of change. Somewhere among the rocks, you might find the delicate imprint of a shell, the curve of a fossilized coral, or the faint outline of a trilobite spine. These tiny shapes are time travelers, survivors of eras erased by oceans, wind, and sun. Each fossil tells a quiet story of struggle and adaptation, of life forming new ways to endure. Long before trees, mammals, or birds, these creatures ruled the sea. When you picture them, imagine soft currents swirling through coral forests and strange shapes gliding through sunlight filtered by ancient water. The silence of stone hides all of it. The movement, the color, the pulse of life long gone. Preserved in layers so vast, they make even the oldest forests seem young. Scientists study these fossils to trace the story of evolution. How simple organisms became complex, how fins became limbs, and how tiny cells once set the stage for everything alive today. But in the stillness of night, these facts take on a softer meaning. They remind us that life, like the canyon, is shaped by patience and change. Each fossil is a whisper from the past, saying that nothing truly disappears, it only transforms. Seas become deserts, creatures become stone, and even silence becomes a story. As you breathe slowly, imagine the canyon breathing with you, vast, ancient, and full of the memory of oceans that once shimmered where the desert now sleeps. As sunlight sweeps across the canyon walls, it touches colors older than memory. Deep crimson, soft pink, pale cream, and muted violet blend together like brushstrokes on an endless canvas. These hues are not decoration. They are time itself, preserved in stone. Each layer marks an age, a world that once was, long before rivers or forests or human eyes to see them. The topmost rocks, the Kaibab limestone, tell the story of an ancient sea that shimmered 270 million years ago. Beneath it lies the Toroip Formation, once sandy shores where tides rolled gently in and out. The Coconino Sandstone, pale and smooth, holds the frozen patterns of desert dunes, waves of sand that hardened into stone over eons. Deeper still, the Redwall limestone glows with a rusty warmth, colored by iron that once drifted through the ocean. Every shade tells of a different earth. There were times when this place was ocean, then desert, then lush swamp. The colors shift gently down the canyon, a vertical rainbow of climates and eras. The deeper you go, the further back you travel, into a world where continents collided, seas rose and fell, and the planet quietly remade itself again and again. To stand at the canyon's edge is to look at a cross-section of time. You are seeing nearly 2 billion years of Earth's story stacked in silent layers. The youngest rocks at the top are like the last page of a vast book, while the oldest, at the bottom, the Vishnu schist, formed when the world was still raw and volcanic. These dark, twisted stones are the roots of the continent itself. The rocks here don't just sit still, they speak through color and texture. The reds and oranges come from iron oxides, minerals that rusted quietly over ages. The purples and grays are born from manganese, and the soft whites from limestone rich with ancient shells. Under sunlight, these minerals glow, but at dusk, when shadows fall, they turn deep and mysterious, fading into soft blues and golds that make the canyon look alive. Geologists read these layers the way storytellers read old books. Every crack and ripple is a sentence written by wind, water, and pressure. The deeper you look, the more you realize that the canyon isn't empty space. It's Earth's memory made visible. Time, pressure, and patience join forces to carve art into stone. When night falls, the colors change once more. The reds grow darker, the cliffs blend with the stars, and the rocks seem to breathe under moonlight. The canyon becomes a quiet cathedral of time, where even silence has depth. Each grain of sand, each mineral shimmer, is a reminder that beauty doesn't always come from movement. Sometimes, it's found in stillness that has lasted forever. So as you rest, imagine lying back at the canyon's edge, watching the walls fade into the stars. Every layer beneath you is a story, and together, they tell the tale of a planet learning to become beautiful. The Grand Canyon may seem eternal, but it is never finished. Even as you listen now, it is still being shaped, slowly, silently, by the same natural forces that created it millions of years ago. The canyon is a living sculpture, carved by erosion, the combined power of wind, rain, temperature, and the ceaseless Colorado River. When rain falls on the canyon's rim, tiny droplets begin a long journey downward. Some soak into cracks, freezing and thawing with the seasons. This gentle cycle causes the rock to expand and break apart, piece by piece. Other raindrops gather in small streams that tumble down the cliffs, carrying dust and pebbles with them. Over centuries, this process shapes slopes, forms new channels, and deepens the canyon's walls. Wind, too, is an artist here. It sweeps through the open air, lifting grains of sand and polishing the rock's surface like a natural brush. During dry seasons, dust storms roll softly across the plateaus, whispering against stone. Even the sun and temperature shifts play their part, heating rock by day, cooling it at night, making it expand and contract in an endless rhythm. Bit by bit, that movement reshapes the canyon. The Colorado River, though smaller now than in ages past, remains the most powerful sculptor. Its current grinds at the rock below, carrying sediments that abrade and carve new paths. Every twist in the river tells of centuries of resistance. Stone pushing back against water, water finding new ways through stone. The canyon you see today is only a moment in its evolution. It's still deepening, still widening, still alive in the slowest possible way. To the human eye, these changes are invisible, but to the earth, they are constant motion. If you could watch the canyon sped up through time, 1,000,000 years in a single breath, you'd see cliffs crumble and rebuild, rivers shift, and colors fade then reappear. The canyon would ripple and change like a living thing, breathing in and out through the ages. Scientists call this process weathering and erosion, but to the heart, it feels more like patience made visible. Each curve and ledge is the result of persistence, the same way a stream smooths a stone or a breeze shapes a dune. The canyon teaches that even the smallest, gentlest forces can leave the deepest marks, if only given enough time. Somewhere in the night, wind slides softly over the rim, carrying a faint sound like distant waves. You can almost feel the land breathing, exhaling dust and taking in silence. The same slow forces that shaped this place are still at work, not destroying, but transforming. So as you rest, imagine those forces working gently around you. Wind, rain, and river, patient, eternal artists. Each moment of stillness you feel now mirrors the same peace that allows nature to work so perfectly slowly. The canyon doesn't rush, and neither must you. When you think of the Grand Canyon, you might picture only stone, silence, and sky. But look closer, and you'll find the place alive with movement, subtle, patient, and perfectly in tune with the land. Even in the harshest heat or deepest shadow, life endures here, woven delicately into the rhythm of rock and river. High above, the California condor circles gracefully on wide, dark wings. With a wingspan stretching nearly 3 meters, it is one of the largest flying birds in North America. Once thought extinct, these majestic scavengers now soar again through the canyon's thermals, riding columns of warm air rising from the cliffs. Their silent flight, gliding effortlessly between sunlit ridges, feels almost like time itself drifting by. Down near the river, bighorn sheep move nimbly along impossible slopes. Their hooves grip the rock like hooks, letting them climb where no other large animal dares. You might spot them at dawn or dusk, their curved horns catching the golden light. In this steep and rugged world, balance is survival, and they've mastered it over generations. Closer to the ground, lizards bask on sun-warmed stone, soaking in heat before retreating into cool cracks. Tiny kangaroo rats dart between shrubs, storing seeds that will one day help new plants grow. Even in the stillness of night, you can sense motion, wings fluttering softly, paws pattering over sand, life continuing quietly beneath the stars. Each creature has found its way to exist in harmony with the canyon's rhythm. Some hide through the day and roam by night. Others rest through dry seasons and awaken when rain returns. Together, they form a living thread that runs through the canyon's vast and silent heart. The Grand Canyon's ecosystem stretches from scorching desert floor to cool pine forests high above. The difference between top and bottom can span nearly 1,000 meters of elevation, and with it, a world of changing climates. At the rim, elk wander among juniper and pinyon pines, breathing cool mountain air. Descend a little, and you'll find desert cacti, agave, and blooming wildflowers, their roots reaching deep to sip what little water they can find. At night, the canyon hums with quiet life. Owls glide silently through moonlit air, their feathers muffling sound as they hunt. Bats weave through the darkness, chasing insects that rise from the riverbanks. Even the wind carries the scent of sage and warm stone, a reminder that every part of this landscape, from the smallest beetle to the soaring condor, belongs to one great breathing system. Some animals travel far across the plateau, migrating with the seasons. Others have lived here for countless generations, their habits shaped by the slow lessons of time. Survival here is not about strength, but adaptation, finding balance in extremes. So as you breathe in slowly, imagine yourself part of that rhythm. The heartbeat of the canyon matches your own, steady, quiet, alive. Every sound, every movement, even every pause, is a part of the song that has echoed here for millions of years. In a place of rock and heat, it may seem impossible for life to take root. Yet, along the canyon's edges and within its narrow depths, the earth quietly blooms. Plants of the Grand Canyon are survivors, each one adapted to endure long months of dryness, intense sun, and the thin, shifting soil. Where water is scarce, roots grow deep. Where wind howls across open cliffs, leaves grow small, tough, and wise. At the rim, the air is cool and crisp, and the land is dotted with pinyon pines, junipers, and ponderosa forests. These trees spread slowly across the highlands, their needles whispering in the mountain breeze. In summer, their cones open and scatter seeds, which may lie waiting for years before finding the perfect moment to sprout. Moss and lichen decorate their bark, living partnerships between fungi and algae, surviving where almost nothing else can. Descend lower, and the green fades into gray and gold. Here the high desert begins, a world of yucca, agave, and prickly pear cactus. Their leaves are thick and waxy, designed to hold every drop of moisture. Some bloom only once in a lifetime, a single burst of color after years of stillness, before leaving behind seeds for the next generation. Others bloom at night, their flowers opening under the moon to invite bats and moths instead of bees. The canyon floor, where the Colorado River flows, hides lush oases of willow, cottonwood, and tamarisk. Their roots stretch toward the cool underground water, and their leaves shimmer in the wind like tiny silver mirrors. Where shade meets moisture, ferns and wild grasses grow, delicate green lace against the red walls of stone. Even in the desert's heart, the canyon remembers how to nurture life. In spring, after rare rains, the canyon transforms. Dry slopes burst suddenly into fields of color, wildflowers, small and bright, painting the landscape with yellows, purples, and soft blues. For a few brief weeks, the desert seems to breathe faster, alive with bees, butterflies, and the hum of renewal. Then, as heat returns, the blossoms fade, leaving seeds to wait quietly beneath the sand until the next rainfall. Every plant here tells a story of patience. Some have roots that reach deeper than a building is tall. Others close their pores during the day to save water and open them only at night, drinking from the cool air. Their survival is a slow miracle, the art of waiting, of adapting, of growing in silence. Scientists who study these plants often speak of how ecosystems depend on stillness. Trees anchor soil that might otherwise crumble into the canyon. Shrubs hold moisture, flowers feed pollinators, and roots weave invisible networks that hold the earth together. Each leaf, each thorn, each hidden bloom is a quiet act of balance between life and stone. As twilight deepens, you can almost imagine the canyon sighing, a soft rustle through the sage, a ripple of wind through pine. Life here doesn't shout, it whispers. Every cactus spine, every pine needle, every drifting petal carries the same message. that even in the harshest places, beauty always finds a way to grow. Beneath the sunlit cliffs and sweeping plateaus, the Grand Canyon hides a world few ever see. Deep within its limestone walls lie thousands of caves, carved by water that once flowed through the stone ages ago. Most are small and hidden, their entrances half buried by rock or shadow, but some stretch for miles, winding tunnels of darkness and echo. These caves are time capsules, preserving traces of worlds long gone. Inside, the air is cool and still, untouched by wind or daylight. Drips of water fall from the ceiling, forming stalactites and stalagmites, stone shapes that grow slower than any living thing. Some take thousands of years to form just a single inch. They look like frozen waterfalls, glistening faintly in the dim light, each one shaped by the slow heartbeat of the earth. In the deeper chambers, you can sometimes find crystals of calcite sparkling like stars, or bones of ancient animals sealed into the rock. Some caves hold evidence that humans once sheltered here. Soot from old fires, handprints, and tools left by the ancestors of the canyon's earliest people. Each object, each shimmer of mineral, is a whisper of time preserved in silence. Scientists believe there are more than 1,000 undiscovered caves hidden within the canyon walls. Some are accessible only to experienced explorers and researchers who move through narrow passages with care, mapping places that may never have seen light before. These caves are not just holes in the ground. They are part of the canyon's living system, storing water, minerals, and memory deep below the surface. Life finds a way even here, in this quiet darkness. Tiny insects, spiders, and blind cave beetles live their entire lives without ever seeing the sun. Some species exist nowhere else on Earth, small, delicate forms that depend on the faint humidity and minerals of these secret worlds. They feed on fallen plant matter, the slow drift of organic dust, or microscopic bacteria that grow along damp walls. The caves also help the canyon breathe. When air above grows hot, cool drafts move gently through these hidden openings, balancing temperature and moisture in unseen ways. Each cave acts like a lung for the landscape, exhaling cool air that rises through cracks and crevices, refreshing the dry desert air above. Explorers often describe the feeling of being inside one of these caves as like standing inside the planet's memory. Time slows. Every sound, a drop of water, a shifting pebble, echoes like a thought across centuries. You realize that the canyon's wonder doesn't end where the cliffs do. It continues inward, downward, into the very bones of the earth. So as you rest, imagine yourself walking through those quiet halls of stone. Each drip of water is a heartbeat. Each glimmer of mineral light is a star born underground. The air is cool, the walls ancient, and the silence complete. It's not emptiness you feel there. It's presence, calm and eternal, the earth dreaming beneath its own surface. As dawn touches the Grand Canyon, light pours over its edges like golden water. Shadows stretch long and deep, and the rocks seem to breathe awake. The first rays of the sun reveal colors hidden through the night, gentle pinks, muted purples, and the soft glow of orange stone. It's as if the canyon itself opens its eyes, welcoming another ancient morning. The Grand Canyon is one of the few places where light feels alive. Every hour brings a new version of it. In early morning, mist may hang above the Colorado River like a silver thread, while higher cliffs catch the pale gold of sunlight. By midday, the colors sharpen. Bright reds and deep browns blaze across the rock faces, and the air shimmers with heat. The canyon can appear still and silent, but it's constantly changing, shifting in color and tone as the sun crosses the sky. Geologists often say that the canyon's beauty isn't just in its size. It's in its layers of time, stacked like pages of a glowing book. But to truly see it, you have to watch how light plays across those layers. A single cloud drifting overhead can turn an entire wall from fire orange to violet shadow in seconds. It's a slow, meditative rhythm. The canyon never rushes, it just exists, timeless and grand, letting the light tell its story. When evening comes, something magical happens. The sunlight softens, slipping across the cliffs in amber waves. The shadows grow deeper and longer until the canyon becomes a sea of blue and gold. Visitors fall quiet as the horizon turns red, then purple, then black. It feels less like night arriving and more like the earth exhaling, a long, peaceful sigh that cools the stones and settles the dust. At sunset, the Grand Canyon becomes a dream painted in real time. The temperature drops gently, and the colors melt together, layers of rose, violet, and rust fading into one another until the horizon glows like embers. The Colorado River below catches the last of the light, flickering like liquid fire before dimming into shadow. The sky itself seems to join in the display. On clear evenings, the air above the canyon glows with soft shades of peach and lavender. On others, thin clouds scatter the sun's rays into halos of gold and red. Photographers call this the magic hour, but to those who simply sit and watch, it feels more like the earth whispering goodbye to the day. Then comes night, slow, quiet, and absolute. The canyon cools, the wind stills, and the stars appear one by one. Far from city lights, the Grand Canyon's night sky is one of the darkest on Earth. You can see the Milky Way stretch from rim to rim, a silent river of light flowing over an ancient ocean of stone. The same stars have watched these cliffs for millions of years, through floods, fires, and time itself. As you close your eyes, imagine lying beneath that endless sky. The air is cool and still, carrying the scent of pine and desert dust. The last warmth of the day lingers on the rocks. Above, galaxies spin quietly, their light touching stone carved long before life began. The canyon sleeps, and so do you, held in the slow rhythm of the planet's heartbeat. Beneath the vast sky, the Colorado River winds quietly through the heart of the Grand Canyon, a ribbon of green water flowing through walls of time. It seems calm now, but its story is one of incredible power and patience. Over millions of years, this river has shaped the land, cutting through layers of rock that once lay flat across the desert floor. Inch by inch, grain by grain, it carved the canyon we see today, not with force alone, but with time and persistence. The river's journey began around 6 million years ago, when ancient tectonic forces lifted the Colorado Plateau. As the land rose, the river found itself flowing downhill with renewed energy, slicing deeper into the rock below. Every flood, every storm, every drop of rain helped the carving continue. The Colorado didn't rush. It eroded stone slowly, layer by layer, revealing secrets buried for nearly 2 billion years. Even now, the Colorado River is still shaping the canyon. Each year, it carries away tons of sand, silt, and gravel, sculpting its bends and cliffs a little more. Sometimes it runs clear and still, reflecting the sky like a mirror. Other times, after heavy rain, it turns the color of chocolate, filled with sediment that hints at its endless work. Scientists say that if you could speed up time, the canyon would look like it's breathing, deepening, shifting, and flowing like a living thing. And yet, despite its might, the Colorado is not loud. Standing near its edge, you might hear only a soft rush, a steady whisper echoing off the canyon walls. It's a quiet reminder that even the most powerful forces in nature often move slowly, almost peacefully, shaping worlds without making a sound. If you could drift along the Colorado River at night, you'd see a sky of endless stars reflected on its surface, a mirror of time above and below. The cliffs rise like silhouettes, and the gentle current carries you forward, past walls of stone that have witnessed everything from ancient seas to the birth of continents. In that silence, it's easy to imagine the river as Earth's memory, always moving, always remembering the path it carved. The river's flow isn't constant. It rises and falls with the seasons. In spring, snowmelt from the Rocky Mountains sends a rush of cold, fresh water through the canyon, giving it strength. By summer, the current slows, revealing sandbars and still pools where animals come to drink. Desert bighorns, coyotes, and even tiny frogs depend on the water. It's a lifeline in a land of stone. What's astonishing is how the river's path tells a story written in erosion. Each curve and bend marks where rock resisted or gave way, and each layer it exposes speaks of a different age of Earth. The bottommost rocks, ancient Vishnu schist, are nearly 2 billion years old, formed when the world was still young. Above them lie younger layers, stacked like history itself, shaped by water, wind, and time. As you listen, let the sound of the imagined river wash through your thoughts. Think of how something as soft as water can shape something as strong as rock, not through force, but through patience. That quiet lesson of the canyon is the same as nature's wisdom everywhere. Great change happens slowly, and even the gentlest touch, given time, can carve the deepest paths. Deep within the Grand Canyon's walls lie hundreds of hidden caves, carved by water and time. Some are small, little pockets tucked behind rock layers, while others stretch far into the earth, large enough to walk through like ancient cathedrals of stone. Most people never see them, but they hold secrets older than the canyon itself. Inside, the air is cool, still, and damp, untouched by wind or sunlight. Each echo feels like a whisper from another age. Scientists have explored some of these caves and discovered fossils, crystals, and ancient minerals that reveal stories of long-lost worlds. In one cavern, researchers found bones from Ice Age animals, giant sloths, bighorn sheep, and even the remains of ancient birds that once soared over a very different canyon. Some of these fossils are perfectly preserved, sealed in clay or limestone for tens of thousands of years. The walls of certain caves sparkle with delicate formations, stalactites hanging like icicles, stalagmites rising like stone pillars from the floor. Each one forms slowly, drop by drop, as water seeps through the rock above, leaving behind tiny traces of minerals. Over centuries, those traces grow into shimmering towers of crystal. In the canyon's darkness, a single drop of water can take 100 years to add a fraction of an inch to a stalactite. These caves also protect fragile environments found nowhere else on Earth. Some are home to species that live entirely in darkness: blind crickets, pale spiders, and microbes that feed on minerals instead of sunlight. Scientists study these hidden life forms to understand how life might survive in extreme places, even on other planets. Within these stone chambers, nature has written a quiet story of life's persistence in the shadows. The fossils found in the Grand Canyon tell a deeper story still, one that stretches across hundreds of millions of years. Embedded in the limestone and sandstone are the remains of ancient sea creatures, shells, corals, and trilobites that once lived in warm oceans long before the canyon existed. When you touch a rock wall there, you might be touching a piece of seabed from a time when Arizona was covered by waves. Some layers reveal ripple marks, the frozen patterns of tides and currents that once moved across sandy shores. Others contain fossilized plants, showing that lush forests once grew here before deserts claimed the land. Each fossil is like a photograph from Earth's past, a snapshot preserved in stone. Together, they tell us that the canyon wasn't carved from nothing. It was born from ancient worlds, each buried beneath the next, waiting for the river to uncover them. Even the color of the rocks speaks of age and transformation. Iron turned red, copper made them green, and carbon left streaks of black through the cliffs. Those colors, built layer by layer, are the record of countless eras of water, life, and change. To walk through the canyon is to walk through time itself. Every step down its path takes you millions of years deeper into the Earth's memory. As you imagine those hidden caves and the fossils resting within them, let your mind slow. Picture the drip of mineral water echoing through the dark, the patient forming of crystal, the silent bones lying untouched. It's a reminder that even in stillness, the world continues to create, layer by layer, life after life, moment after moment, quietly eternal. Though the Grand Canyon may seem like a place of rock and silence, it's very much alive. From the rim to the river, life has found a way to adapt to heat, height, and time itself. The air above the cliffs often carries the sound of wings, California condors, with wingspans wider than a person is tall, glide on invisible air currents. They drift effortlessly for hours, scanning the canyon below. These majestic birds nearly vanished from the world once, but through careful protection, they've returned, soaring again over the same cliffs that watched ancient civilizations rise and fall. Far below, where the Colorado River winds its cool path, beavers, otters, and bighorn sheep gather near the water's edge. Mule deer drink cautiously at dawn, and the prints of coyotes mark the soft sand. Life here follows the rhythm of the sun. Early mornings and late evenings are full of quiet motion, while the heat of midday sends everything into stillness. In the drier uplands, desert lizards bask on sun-warmed stones, and tiny hummingbirds dart between cactus flowers, their wings beating faster than the eye can see. Each plant and animal has learned a special kind of patience, surviving through long droughts and sudden storms. Some flowers bloom for only a few days a year, waiting months for the perfect drop of rain. Their seeds sleep in the soil, protected by time, until the desert decides it's ready. Even in this rugged environment, there are delicate balances everywhere. The canyon's ecosystems are like invisible threads, each life connected to another. The loss of one species can echo through the rest, changing how the land breathes and grows. It's a quiet, complex harmony, built slowly and carefully, just like the canyon itself. At night, when the canyon cools, a new world awakens. Owls call from the cliffs, their voices deep and steady, echoing off the walls. Bats swirl above the river, hunting insects that rise from the water in shimmering clouds. The moonlight reveals a softer side of the desert, pale blossoms that open only after sunset, spreading their scent into the cool air. Some creatures of the canyon have survived here for thousands of years, barely changing. The tiny ringtail cat, a quiet nocturnal hunter, has roamed these shadows since the Ice Age. Reptiles, insects, and birds all play their part in keeping the ecosystem balanced. Even the smallest cactus, with its hidden reservoir of water, helps sustain life in times of drought. The plants that grow along the canyon's edges have stories written in their roots. The juniper tree, for instance, can twist its trunk into spirals, gripping rock instead of soil to find water. The agave, known as the century plant, may wait decades before blooming, sending up one tall stalk crowned with hundreds of yellow flowers. And then, once its seeds scatter, it quietly dies. Each living thing here has adapted not to fight the canyon, but to live with it, to move slowly, to endure, to listen. That's the secret of survival in this vast landscape. As you picture the canyon at night, stars overhead, the faint call of an owl, the whisper of leaves in the still air, let it remind you how calm strength can be. Like the canyon's life, you don't have to rush. You simply have to keep growing, quietly and beautifully, in your own time. Long before the Grand Canyon became a destination for travelers, it was a home, a temple, and a teacher for the people who lived here. For thousands of years, indigenous tribes have walked its trails, fished its waters, and told stories about its spirit. The ancestral Puebloans, also known as the Anasazi, were among the first to leave their mark. They carved dwellings into the cliffs and painted symbols on the stone, spirals, handprints, and patterns that may have marked the passing of time or the cycles of the stars. To these early people, the canyon was not just a place of survival. It was alive, breathing with the power of the earth itself. Every rock and river, every wind that whispered through the walls, carried meaning. The canyon's size and silence reminded them of their place within nature, small but connected, temporary yet part of something eternal. The Havasupai, whose name means people of the blue-green water, still live in the canyon today. Their village lies deep below the rim, near turquoise waterfalls that shimmer beneath red cliffs. For them, the canyon is more than home. It's a sacred space that holds their past, their ancestors, and their future. The water that flows through it is life itself. They tell stories of spirits who protect the land and warn of balance, that when humans live in harmony with the earth, both can thrive. Archaeologists have found traces of pottery, tools, and fire pits throughout the canyon, signs that families once gathered here beneath starlit skies. Imagine the flicker of firelight against the walls, the sound of soft voices carried by the wind. The canyon you see today was the same one they saw then, vast, beautiful, and humbling. The difference is only time. Other tribes, including the Hopi, Navajo, Zuni, Paiute, and Hualapai, each have their own deep connections to the canyon. In Hopi tradition, the Grand Canyon is believed to be part of the place of emergence, where their ancestors first came into this world. The land holds memory, and every stone carries story. For the Navajo, the canyon is woven into the balance of creation, a symbol of the world's harmony and strength. To walk through the canyon today is to walk through their history. Many trails follow the same routes that indigenous peoples once used for trade or pilgrimage. Springs that still flow today were sacred gathering places, spots where water, so rare in the desert, brought together communities, animals, and plants. Even the canyon's plants were used for medicine, food, and ceremony. Sage, yucca, and mesquite all had roles in healing and daily life. Though centuries have passed, these traditions remain. Descendants of those early tribes still visit and honor the canyon, offering prayers, songs, and dances that echo through the cliffs. They remind us that this place isn't just an object of study. It's a living being, shaped not only by rivers and time, but by the reverence of those who loved it first. As you imagine the canyon under a full moon, think of the generations who looked at the same stars and felt the same wind. Their footprints may have faded, but their stories remain, carried by the river, whispered by the rocks, waiting quietly in the stillness. And just like them, you are part of that same vast story, one of connection, balance, and belonging to the earth. Beneath the beauty of the Grand Canyon lies one of the most complete geological records on Earth, a vast timeline carved into stone. Each layer of rock tells a story of oceans that rose and vanished, mountains that grew and eroded, and climates that shifted across millions of years. To look at the canyon's walls is to look back in time. Not just hundreds or thousands of years, but nearly 2 billion. The deepest rocks at the canyon's base are called the Vishnu schist, dark, ancient stone formed under intense heat and pressure when the Earth was still young. These rocks are older than most of the continents we know today. Above them lie layers of Zoroaster granite, melted and crystallized deep underground before being lifted toward the surface by the slow movement of tectonic plates. Together, they form the foundation of the canyon, the oldest parts of the world that still see sunlight. Moving upward through the canyon's walls is like climbing through time. Each band of rock above represents a new era, a new world that once existed where you now stand. The Tapete sandstone tells of shallow seas that once covered the land. The Bright Angel shale holds fossils of ancient marine life, trilobites, worms, and shells that lived 500 million years ago. The Mauve limestone records the slow buildup of coral reefs that formed in warm tropical waters long before the first dinosaurs walked the earth. These layers are stacked like the pages of a giant, unfinished book. Scientists can trace the story of shifting oceans, drifting continents, and evolving life all through the canyon's walls. Every color, from deep red to pale white, reflects changes in oxygen, water, and life itself. Standing at the rim, you're not just looking at rock, you're looking at the memory of the planet. As wind brushes across the cliffs, it's easy to imagine the canyon whispering those memories aloud. In one glance, you can see what the world looked like when life first crawled from the sea, when lush forests covered the land, and when deserts spread across what is now the American West. The Grand Canyon holds more than just beauty. It holds evidence of change, of resilience, of endless time. Some layers are smooth, others rough or rippled, showing how water once flowed or wind once blew across the surface. The red hues come from iron minerals that rusted in ancient air. The gray and green tones hint at deeper seas where oxygen was scarce. These subtle colors are clues, not painted by hand, but by nature, stroke by stroke, over millions of years. Even more fascinating are the unconformities, missing pieces of the record where time simply vanished. In some spots, entire eras of rock are gone, eroded away before the next layer formed. These gaps, known as the Great Unconformity, represent over 1 billion years of lost history. No fossils, no rocks, just time erased by nature's quiet hand. When you think of that, 1 billion years gone in silence, it puts our lives into perspective. We are but moments in the canyon's story, brief as shadows passing across its walls. Yet, somehow we are part of it. Our footsteps join those of the ancient rivers, winds, and lives that came before. The canyon reminds us that change is constant, but beauty endures, always reshaping, always revealing, never truly gone. Even though the Grand Canyon seems ancient and unchanging, it's still alive with motion, shaped every day by the same natural forces that carved it in the first place. Wind sweeps across the cliffs, lifting grains of sand and carrying them through the air. Rain falls, trickling into cracks and crevices. In the desert, where temperatures rise and fall dramatically between day and night, water freezes, expands, and slowly pries the rock apart. Bit by bit, the canyon deepens and widens, breathing in time's long rhythm. Erosion is a quiet artist. It doesn't rush or roar, it works patiently. When storms come, rain gathers into tiny rivulets that run down the canyon walls, carrying small fragments of rock with them. Over time, these small movements carve gullies and channels, adding subtle new curves to the canyon's design. The process is slow beyond comprehension. What changes in one lifetime might barely be noticeable. But when seen across millennia, it becomes a grand, fluid dance between water, wind, and stone. The winds that pass through the canyon can shape it too. They carry dust and fine sand that gently polish the cliffs, revealing fresh layers beneath. Sometimes they carve natural arches or smooth the faces of rock towers. During the dry season, those winds also lift the sounds of the canyon. The rustle of plants, the cry of a hawk, the faint echo of footsteps, blending them into one soft, endless song. At night, the air cools quickly. Rocks contract in the chill, cracking slightly after expanding under the day's heat. These small fractures will someday become boulders, then pebbles, then grains of sand carried away by the river. The canyon is always changing, always being reborn, though it does so in silence, in patience, and in perfect balance. Sometimes, the most dramatic transformations happen in moments of sudden force. In the summer, monsoon storms sweep across the desert, releasing torrents of rain in just minutes. Water rushes down dry channels, turning them into rivers of mud and stone. These flash floods carry enormous power, moving boulders and reshaping entire sections of the canyon floor. What looks like chaos in the moment is part of nature's long design, cleansing, shifting, renewing. When those storms pass, the air becomes fresh and cool. The scent of wet earth rises, and waterfalls appear briefly where none existed before. Thin silver ribbons cascading down the red cliffs, disappearing almost as soon as they arrive. Then, as the sun returns, the canyon steams gently, the heat drawing mist up from its depths like breath from the earth. Over millions of years, this cycle, rain and wind, freezing and thawing, erosion and calm, has sculpted the canyon into the shape we know today. And it continues, unseen but unstoppable. Geologists believe that the Grand Canyon grows deeper by the width of a single sheet of paper each year. It's a delicate reminder that even the smallest actions, repeated with time, can shape the greatest things. When you stand at the rim and feel the wind on your face, that same wind has touched the cliffs for countless centuries. It's the same breeze that once carried volcanic ash, desert dust, and the scent of ancient rain. The canyon doesn't rush toward change. It simply endures it, gracefully, patiently, eternally. Like the flow of thought before sleep, it reminds us that everything moves forward, even in stillness. As the sun rises over the horizon, the Grand Canyon awakens in silence. At first, it seems almost gray, a vast shadow cut deep into the earth. But then, the light begins to spread, golden, warm, and slow. The canyon walls catch it one layer at a time, and suddenly, the entire landscape starts to glow. Reds, oranges, and pinks bloom across the cliffs, like a fire igniting from within the stone itself. Geologists know that these colors come from iron and other minerals in the rock: rust-red iron oxide, greenish copper, soft purples from manganese. But when seen in this light, it feels like something far more alive. Each rock layer, formed over millions of years, reflects sunlight differently. Together, they create a moving painting that shifts from dawn until dusk. As morning deepens, the shadows pull back, revealing hidden corners of the canyon, narrow ledges, secret alcoves, and winding trails that seem to disappear into infinity. The Colorado River far below sparkles in tiny flashes, reflecting pieces of sky as it flows between the walls. From above, it looks almost peaceful, like a ribbon of glass. But that river has carved this entire masterpiece through the patient passage of time. The air in the morning is cool and still. Birds glide effortlessly along the thermals, rising and falling on invisible currents. The canyon amplifies every sound. A single wing beat echoes for miles. If you listen closely, you might even hear pebbles shift, wind hum, or water whisper in the distance. It's as if the whole canyon is breathing, waking slowly under the gentle warmth of the sun. And as the day unfolds, the colors continue to change, never the same twice. The canyon doesn't just reflect sunlight, it transforms it. Even the shadows seem alive, painted in blues and violets, curling gently across the rock faces like slow-moving clouds. By late afternoon, the canyon begins to glow again, but this time with deeper hues: amber, crimson, and violet. The air becomes warmer, and the cliffs seem to hold the sunlight in their stone. It's a quiet transformation, where every rock and ridge appears sharper, every shadow longer. The canyon becomes both clearer and more mysterious at once. As the sun dips lower, the light bounces from wall to wall, filling the canyon's depths with soft reflections. The colors seem to swirl and fade in layers, like the turning of ancient pages. When evening finally settles, a deep, peaceful hush falls across the land. The last rays of light cling to the upper rim, and for a moment, it looks as though the canyon itself is glowing from within, a lantern made of stone and air. When darkness comes, the stars emerge, countless, silent, infinite. The sky over the Grand Canyon is one of the clearest on Earth, a window into the Milky Way. Starlight pours into the canyon like silver dust, settling gently across the rocks and river. It's hard to tell where the Earth ends and the sky begins. Some visitors describe this moment as spiritual. Others just stand in quiet awe, their thoughts softening like the fading light. In the stillness of night, the canyon seems to sleep, but even in its rest, the winds and waters continue their ancient work. The same forces that created it still flow unseen beneath the stars. Here, under this vast sky, you can feel both very small and completely connected, like one more part of this slow, beautiful rhythm that shapes the world. Deep within the Grand Canyon, life finds a way in places that seem too harsh to survive. Between the rocks and along the riverbanks, entire ecosystems flourish quietly. The desert may look dry and lifeless from above, but step closer and you'll see green ferns, delicate flowers, and hidden springs that feed tiny oases. The Colorado River, though narrow from afar, is a lifeline that nourishes plants and animals through its long journey. Its water carries minerals and sediments that enrich the soil, allowing small forests to grow in the shadows of the canyon walls. Cottonwood and willow trees bend gently toward the current, their roots anchored in soft sand. Dragonflies dance above the water, catching sunlight on their wings like pieces of glass. Above them, desert bighorn sheep move gracefully across steep cliffs. Their hooves, perfectly shaped for climbing, allow them to balance on ledges thinner than your hand. Farther below, lizards warm themselves on sunlit rocks, while tiny canyon wrens fill the air with song. their voices echoing against stone like whispers from another time. When night comes, the air cools, and a new chorus begins. Crickets sing softly among the brush, and bats sweep silently through the twilight, feeding on insects that rise from the river's edge. Owls glide through the darkness, their wings moving without a sound. In the still night air, you can feel that this canyon, even in silence, is alive everywhere at once. Every creature here is part of a rhythm, an ancient heartbeat that began long before humans ever looked into these depths. Life in the canyon isn't just surviving, it's adapting, evolving, and thriving in perfect balance with wind, rock, and time. What makes the Grand Canyon so remarkable is how life changes with every step. From the rim to the river, the temperature and elevation shift so dramatically that you can pass through the equivalent of traveling from a mountain forest to a desert plain, all in one day's hike. At the top, near the cool pine forests, you'll find deer, squirrels, and countless species of birds. The air is crisp, and the ground is often covered in needles and soft moss. As you move downward, the world changes. The trees thin out, replaced by hardy shrubs and desert flowers that bloom brightly even in the driest months. Cacti appear, storing water for long weeks of sun, while small reptiles rest beneath the shade of stones. In the deepest parts of the canyon, near the river, temperatures rise dramatically and the ecosystem becomes almost tropical. Frogs croak near hidden pools, butterflies drift above the reeds, and lush green pockets of life appear like secret gardens. Even the smallest insects play a part, pollinating, breaking down soil, or feeding the next creature in this endless web. Each layer of the canyon tells a story not only of rock, but of resilience, a reminder that life will always find a way, no matter how difficult the world may seem. Beneath the sun and stars, among cliffs a billion years old, the canyon remains both ancient and new with every dawn. The Grand Canyon wasn't carved in a day or even a lifetime. It was shaped over millions upon millions of years by forces that move so slowly they almost seem still. Imagine the earth breathing over deep time, the land rising, the rivers cutting, the wind sculpting. Long before the canyon existed, this place was a flat plateau. Then, tectonic forces deep beneath the planet's crust began to lift the land, creating the Colorado Plateau, raising the rocks higher and higher toward the sky. Once the land had risen, the Colorado River began its patient work. It wasn't a violent rush, just water flowing endlessly and persistently. Each drop carried a grain of sand, a particle of silt, a fragment of stone. Over millions of years, that gentle erosion carved a path deeper and deeper, slicing through layers of limestone, sandstone, and shale. Each layer it revealed told the story of a different world. Ancient oceans, deserts, swamps, and forests that once covered this region. The oldest rocks at the canyon's base, known as the Vishnu Basement Rocks, are nearly 2 billion years old, formed when molten rock deep underground cooled and hardened. Above them lie younger layers, each one stacked like pages in Earth's history book. Together, they tell a story so vast that it stretches far beyond human memory, a story of change, patience, and the slow artistry of nature. Even now, the canyon is still changing. Rainstorms loosen stone, winds smooth the cliffs, and the river below keeps carving its endless path toward the sea. The Grand Canyon isn't finished. It's still being written, one grain of sand at a time. Scientists say that if you could watch the Grand Canyon's creation in fast motion, you'd see it as a breathtaking dance between water, rock, and time. Mountains would rise and crumble, rivers would shift their courses, and entire layers of the earth would peel away, revealing colors that had been hidden for eons. But what's most fascinating isn't just how the canyon was carved, it's how long it took. The Colorado River didn't rush to create beauty. It flowed slowly, never stopping, never hurrying. It's a gentle reminder that even the smallest actions, when repeated over time, can shape something extraordinary. When you look out from the rim today, you can see each strata of color glowing in the sunlight. Reds, oranges, browns, and golds, stacked like an artist's palette. Those colors are the fingerprints of ancient worlds. Red sandstones from deserts that vanished long ago, pale limestones from tropical seas, and deep black schist from Earth's earliest crust. Every layer, every bend, every towering wall of rock stands as proof of Earth's patience. The Grand Canyon isn't just a place. It's a timeline, carved by nature's calm persistence. As you drift toward sleep, imagine that flow of time stretching endlessly, the river whispering below, and the canyon walls glowing softly in starlight, a masterpiece shaped by silence and eternity. Beneath the sunlit cliffs and echoing canyons lies a world few ever see, a hidden realm carved by water, darkness, and time. The Grand Canyon isn't just what you see from above. It extends deep underground, into vast networks of caves and caverns, where silence feels almost alive. These hidden spaces formed when rainwater, mixed with natural acids, slowly dissolved limestone and sandstone over millions of years, creating hollow chambers and winding tunnels beneath the desert floor. Inside, the air is cool and still. Drops of water fall gently from the ceiling, building tiny mineral towers called stalactites and stalagmites. Each drop carries dissolved stone, and over countless centuries, they grow, some reaching meters tall. In the soft glow of light, they shimmer like frozen waterfalls, proof that even in darkness, the earth is always at work. One of the most famous of these hidden spaces is the Grand Canyon Caverns, located about 200 feet below the surface. It's a dry limestone cave system, preserved for millions of years. The air inside hasn't changed in ages, sealed off from the outside world. Fossils of ancient animals, including giant ground sloths and even remnants of saber-toothed cats, have been found there, reminders that the canyon once hosted creatures long vanished from our planet. But caves hold more than bones and stone. They hold stories of water, time, and transformation. Every mineral line, every crystal, every tunnel tells a quiet story about how nature sculpts even in complete stillness. If the canyon above shows the power of erosion, the caves below reveal the art of creation, slow, hidden, and endlessly beautiful. Scientists exploring these underground chambers say they're like natural museums, sealed environments preserving evidence of past climates and ecosystems. Within them, layers of calcite can record changes in rainfall, temperature, and air over tens of thousands of years. By studying these patterns, researchers can learn how Earth's climate shifted through the ages, long before humans ever walked its surface. Some caves contain ancient sea fossils, tiny shells, and coral embedded in stone. These are proof that, long ago, this entire region was underwater, part of a vast inland sea. Over time, the ocean disappeared, the land rose, and the water turned to wind and river, carving the world we see today. The canyon's very walls are built from the remains of ancient marine life, transformed into solid rock over unimaginable time. Even more mysterious are the microbial life forms that live in the darkness. Scientists have discovered bacteria in canyon caves that survive without sunlight, feeding only on minerals from the rock. These tiny organisms might hold clues about how life could exist in extreme environments, even on other planets. When you think of the canyon, it's easy to picture the open sky, the cliffs, and the river. But beneath all that beauty lies another world, quiet and patient, where every drop of water, every shimmer of crystal, is a whisper from Earth's deep memory. As the final light of day fades over the Grand Canyon, the world seems to pause. The cliffs glow in shades of gold, crimson, and violet, colors that shift gently as the sun sinks behind the horizon. The air grows cooler, and shadows stretch across the valley like flowing rivers of dusk. From above, the canyon looks timeless, a vast, silent ocean of stone and memory. In moments like this, it's easy to forget how small we are, and yet how connected we remain to everything that shaped this world. Every grain of sand along the riverbed, every ripple in the water, Every line in the stone tells the story of a planet in motion, patient, calm, and eternal. The Grand Canyon stands not as a monument to destruction, but to transformation. It reminds us that beauty often comes from change, that even the deepest scars of the earth can become places of wonder and peace. The wind moves softly across the rim, carrying echoes of eagles and the faint murmur of the river far below. Somewhere in that sound is a lesson, that strength doesn't always roar and power doesn't always rush. Sometimes, the most lasting things are those shaped slowly, quietly, and with care. As night begins to fall, the first stars appear above the canyon's rim, glittering against the endless dark. The Milky Way stretches across the sky, and for a moment, the canyon below looks like a reflection of the cosmos, deep, infinite, and filled with quiet light. If you were to stand at the edge of the canyon now, under that star-filled sky, you might feel as if time itself has slowed. The same stars that once shone over ancient seas and prehistoric creatures now shine over you, unchanged, eternal. The canyon, in its silence, becomes a bridge between what was and what is, a reminder that we, too, are part of this long, gentle story of Earth. The Colorado River still moves in the darkness below, winding endlessly through the shadows. It carries with it the memories of mountains long vanished, the dust of ancient oceans, and the promise of tomorrow's dawn. In that steady, peaceful motion lies a kind of comfort, the quiet rhythm of life that never stops, even when all else seems still. As you close your eyes, imagine the canyon glowing under the stars. Feel the air grow cool, the earth steady beneath you, and the calm weight of time settling gently around your thoughts. Let the stories of stone, water, and wind guide you into rest. Like the river, let your breath flow, slow and unhurried. And as you drift deeper into sleep, remember that the same patience that shaped the Grand Canyon lives in you, too. The quiet strength to endure, to change, and to create beauty in your own time.